Across the galaxy, there were thousands of intelligent species, ancient empires that had ruled star systems for millions of years, warrior civilizations whose fleets could burn entire worlds, and cold, calculating governments that believed strength was the only language worth speaking. Humanity was not one of them, not yet. To the older races of the Orion Arm, humans were barely more than newcomers, a young species, a fragile civilization that had only recently learned to step beyond its home system. But humanity had something the older species had long forgotten. Something unpredictable, something dangerous, something powerful, the willingness to do the impossible for the people they loved. And on a distant alien world, in the throne room of the most powerful empire in the galaxy, one human was about to prove it. The Varelian Empire had ruled its region of space for over 6,000 years. Its fleets were legendary. Entire civilizations had surrendered the moment their warships appeared on the edge of a system. They did not negotiate, they did not compromise, and they did not lose wars. At the center of this empire stood its ruler, Empress Aelithra, a being as feared as she was respected. Her species stood taller than most, elegant and powerful, with silver eyes that seemed to see through every lie. Under her rule, the Varelian Empire had expanded faster than ever before. System after system joined the empire.
Some willingly.
Others, less so. Eventually, expansion brought the empire to the edge of a small cluster of newly colonized star systems. Human systems. The first Varelian scouts expected little resistance. What they found instead was confusing. Human ships were smaller, less advanced. Their weapons were primitive compared to imperial technology. And yet, humans refused to surrender. Not aggressively, not arrogantly, but firmly. Every message from human leadership said the same thing. We are willing to negotiate. We are willing to cooperate, but we will not surrender our worlds. The imperial court found this amusing. A small species challenging a galactic empire? Ridiculous. But the Empress was curious. So instead of sending an invasion fleet, she summoned a diplomat, a human representative, to appear before the imperial court. Commander Ethan Hale had never expected to become the most important diplomat in human history. He was a fleet officer, a tactician, someone who preferred starships to political negotiations. Yet somehow, he now stood in the most intimidating room in the galaxy, the imperial throne hall. The chamber was enormous. Massive crystalline pillars stretched toward a ceiling that shimmered like a living nebula. Thousands of alien nobles watched from elevated platforms. War generals,
Scientists.
political leaders from dozens of conquered species. Commander Ethan Hale of Earth. Step forward. Ethan walked down the long central path. Every step echoed. Every eye watched him. When he reached the center of the chamber,
He stopped.
and bowed respectfully. Not submissively, just respectfully. The Empress leaned forward slightly. Her silver eyes studied him. You represent humanity. I do. You understand the situation your species faces. Ethan nodded. Yes, Your Majesty. A hologram appeared above the court. Human colonies, fleet positions, military projections. The imperial strategist spoke. The Empress spoke again. So tell me, human, why should I allow your species to exist independently? The question hung in the air. Every alien in the room waited for the human to beg, or threaten, or plead for mercy. Instead, Ethan said something none of them expected. If war is the alternative. He paused, then continued calmly. Then I will marry you. Silence. Absolute silence. For several seconds, no one moved. The translation system repeated his words in dozens of alien languages. Still silence. Then whispers. Then shock. Then outrage. A Varelian general slammed his staff on the floor. Empress Aelithra did not react immediately. She simply stared at the human, her expression unreadable. Finally she spoke. You propose marriage? Yes. To prevent war? Yes. You would bind yourself to the ruler of the empire. Ethan nodded. If that alliance protects my people. The court erupted into furious discussion, but the Empress raised one hand. The room went silent instantly. She stood and slowly descended the steps of her throne. The alien nobles parted as she approached the human. She stopped directly in front of him. You would sacrifice your freedom for strangers across your worlds. They're not strangers. They're my people. The Empress studied him carefully, looking for fear, looking for deception, looking for weakness. She found none. You understand what this means. You would no longer belong to your species alone. You would belong to the Empire. Ethan shrugged slightly. Sounds like a complicated marriage. For the first time in centuries, the Empress almost smiled. Human humor. Unexpected. She turned toward the court. This human offers union instead of war. A binding alliance through royal marriage. A noble stepped forward. But Empress, he is human. Yes. Primitive. Yes. Short-lived. Yes. The noble hesitated. Then why consider it? The Empress looked back at Ethan. Because he is brave. Still, the Empress was not finished. Human. Yes, Your Majesty. If you become my consort, you will face enemies, assassins, political rivals, species that resent your presence. Ethan nodded. Sounds like politics. You may also outlive your usefulness. Possibly. You may even die. Ethan smiled faintly. Everyone dies eventually. The Empress stepped closer. Why do this? Why risk everything for your species? Ethan answered immediately. Because they do the same for me. The Empress returned to her throne. The court waited. Moments passed. Then she spoke. The human proposal is accepted. Gasps filled the hall. Commander Ethan Hale will become imperial consort of the Varelian Empire. And by ancient law, our peoples will be united. Across the galaxy, the announcement spread rapidly. Humans were stunned. Alien governments were confused. Political analysts argued for weeks. Had the human diplomat tricked the Empire? Had the Empress lost her mind? Or had something else happened? Something far more dangerous. Because slowly, the galaxy began to realize something. Humans were not weak. They were not foolish. They were something far stranger. A species willing to sacrifice everything for each other. When Ethan finally stood beside the Empress as her consort, the court expected him to fail, to stumble, to embarrass himself. Instead, he did something unexpected. He listened, he learned, and when he spoke like a human.
Direct.
Honest, and surprisingly effective. Even the imperial generals began to respect him. One evening, months later, the Empress asked him a question. Human. Ethan thought for a moment, probably tried something even crazier. She raised an eyebrow, such as, convincing you humans are worth keeping around. Others believed the human changed the future. But the truth was simpler. Two civilizations avoided a war because one human dared to do something no one expected. He didn't threaten the most powerful ruler in the galaxy. He didn't beg. He didn't fight. Instead, he made the strangest diplomatic offer in galactic history and changed the fate of humanity forever. Because sometimes, the bravest warriors don't win wars. Sometimes, they marry the enemy.